Hi, welcome to my fourth video, and in this particular video I would like to discuss, I'd like to talk about grammar. Another scary thing. Actually, not only here in the Philippines, but as well as in the United States of America, when people hear the word grammar, it actually invokes fear. Not only from students, by the way, but also from ordinary people and even from professionals, because there's some kind of a notion that is being appended to the study of grammar that studying grammar is very difficult, it's frightening, it's boring, it's irrelevant, so on and so forth. So there are negative opinions circulating as to the impact of grammar on lives of people. Actually, during the 1960s and 70s, there was an attempt to discredit grammar. There was an attempt to place grammar in the back seat because during that time they were actually updating contemporary education, and experts were not really sure if the new curriculum during that time can still accommodate grammar and can still be intellectually challenging or intellectually stimulating. However, most experts concurred that grammar instruction, studying grammar, can contribute to the lowering of literacy levels. So, at the end of the day, it was agreed upon that, yeah, we still have to study grammar. And actually, because of that, there's another school of thought that emerged, which they call as functional grammar. Functional grammar is designed to make grammar functional, to make grammar appropriate for our daily lives. Meaning, functional grammar was trying to surface the relevance of grammar to our everyday lives. So that's why if we if we heard there's philosophy of language, there's scientific language, there's a language for social science. So these emerged because instead of banking on the parts of speech, which is of course your traditional grammar, they try to level up the importance of grammar and making it relevant to the different fields of knowledge. David Crystal, the author of the Cambridge Encyclopedia of the English Language, wrote, let me quote, "In the popular mind, grammar has become difficult and distant, removed from real life, and practiced chiefly by a race of shadowy people. And these shadowy people were referred to as your grammarians, whose technical apparatus and terminology require a lengthy novitiate before it can be mastered." Here, David Crystal was trying to make us realize the prevailing condition of grammar, how people look at it, how people view grammar, and he accepted the fact that there have been a lot of negative opinions going around. There have been a lot of unpleasant affirmations or impressions with regard to grammar. Actually, he even said that it is a shame because the fundamental point about grammar is important and it's also simple. People are just exaggerating that grammar is so complex, it's so complicated, it doesn't have any relevance at all. David Crystal was trying to get rid of that, to eliminate that kind of thinking. And the final statement of David Crystal was quite important because he said that we need grammar and the studying thereof need not be dry or tedious, but it has to be fascinating. Grammar is relevant. Actually, if we define grammar, it is actually a whole cohesive system concerning the formation and transmission of language. Actually, if I'm gonna construe it myself, grammar is the soul of a language because it talks about the very structure of a language. It is actually an abstract system of rules where the mastery of people of his language actually transpires. So we can appreciate, we can value language if we are knowledgeable of grammar. Because in the first place, language will not exist if there's no grammar. Because our language, any language for that matter, is also a system. It needs a foundation. It needs a structure. And that very structure is being provided by grammar. And actually, the simplest definition, the layman's definition of grammar is it's a language to talk about language. You get it? So that's how experts put it simply as to how we can define grammar. If we're gonna go back to if we're gonna go back down memory lane, the word grammar, gramma means letter, and even in the earliest time, for example, during the ancient times where we saw markings, symbolic markings on caves, on walls of caves, that in itself is an attempt to come up with a systematic language scheme. However, during that time, though, those markings were associated with magical powers, with wizardry. However, if we're going to talk about who invented grammar, experts said that there was nobody who invented grammar. It was there all along. Because grammar is an intrinsic part of human existence. That once we came up with our first meaningful speech, a speech that is understandable, a speech that can be conveyed, grammar is part of it. Grammar lives in it. Actually, if we want to be really technical about it and want to know the origin of grammar, we can find its humble beginnings in India and Greece. In India, it can be referred to as the recited forms of Sanskrit, and in Greece, it is a study of written language. That's how they understood grammar. That's how they contextualized grammar. One of the first people who was able to formulate a system of grammar was Dionysius Thrax from Alexandria. His book, The Art of Letters, required students to learn their letters in a strict order. It was so strict, it was so orthodox that it talks about letter combinations, and when letters are combined, we can form syllables in increasing length. So it's from mere letters to having syllables and creating sentences and paragraphs and a composition. So it's from a simple way to a complex way of studying word forms. Thorax's grammar, he defined it as a technical knowledge of language of poets and writers. Also, philosophers like Aristotle and Socrates realized the importance of grammar as a form of language expression, particularly in the field of rhetoric or public speaking and even in debate. The best known early English grammarian was Ben Jonson, and although his work then was still in Latin, his focus was particularly on the use of punctuation marks. And then in the 1760s, there was a striking outburst. There was as if a outpouring an outcry for the need of grammar, for the need for grammar. People then seem to have been possessed, and people then seem to have instantaneously realized that, hey, grammar is interesting. So by then, grammar had some sort of a rebirth because people began to have interest in the study of grammar. One of the best known grammarians was Robert Loth, who was a clergyman and Bishop of London. Joseph Priestley, by the way, was another famous personality in the field of grammar, had his so-called principle of supremacy of usage. He supported that. And until today, until this very day, people are actually using it, especially grammarians. That when we say grammar, it allows the custom of speaking. And that custom of speaking is characterized by originality, and it will speak of the very standard of any language. And later on in 1898, Nesfield and Wood co-authored the Manual of English Grammar and Composition. So basically, that's how grammar began, although it had a rough start, but eventually, grammar rose like a phoenix, and people were made to understand that in the study of a language, whether it's English or French or whatever language there is, grammar is part and parcel of it. Grammar is integral to the study of language. Later on, after this video, in the next videos, we're going to go to English grammar. We're going to go deeply into English grammar. And of course, when we say English grammar, the thing that comes in mind would be the parts of speech. And we're going to be talking about the parts of speech. So hopefully you will still stay with me. You will still hang out with me in my next videos. So please subscribe to my channel and do not forget to hit the notification bell, the bell button, so that you can be informed of my upcoming videos. Thank you for the support. I do appreciate it. See you then.